You're making one right decision today. You're listening to Handcuffs and Sage.
Three badass moms bringing you all the true crime and paranormal your heart desires.
I'm Red.
I'm Timo.
I'm Dre. And don't let your kids listen. Seriously, just don't.
Hey, it's Handcuffs and Sage.
Woohoo! Hey!
This is Red.
This is Timo.
Hey, this is Dre.
Oh my goodness. This is going to be a fun episode. Before we start, I want to remind y'all to check out our Patreon page. Okay, there's 3 different levels. You guys support us and we will send swag out your way. We love y'all so much. I want to say that this has been just such a fun, beautiful week here where we live, but I feel so bad for all these people. We're seeing this terrible weather all over the country. I feel so bad. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, if it gets below 70 here, I don't feel like I'm going to make it. And then, you know, I mean, well, I have family up in Idaho just getting nailed right now with it.
My dad lives in South Dakota, and he always talks to me about the weather. He's like, you should be here. And I'm like, Dad, you know, I'm a fucking California girl. No fucking way. So he sends me this text and it says, I hope you have good weather over there. You would love it here. 3 to 4 inches of snow, -4 degrees after an overnight of -26.
Damn. That's a nightmare.
Nope.
Okay.
No, thank you.
All kinds of nope. We're a bunch of beach bunnies. Do not even try. Do not even try to get us into cold weather.
Negative nothing.
Not gonna happen.
Unless it's my weight in the negative. That's the only thing that I will
do. I want to be in the negative. I swear, you know, California, it's so expensive, right? But we pay for the weather. We pay for all the things we can do. We can go to the beach. We can go to the desert. We can go to the forest, right? It's amazing the things that we can do here in California. And the weather is, right?
It's so beautiful.
It is. But I feel so bad for people just getting it right now like crazy.
I'm super enjoying you guys at night. My daughter and I will sit for like 10 minutes and just scroll through TikTok. And because we watch things that are more like animal related or funny laugh kind of related, you know, your For You page is like kind of along those lines. So we just have a blast for like 10 or 15 minutes before we go to bed. And like lately it's been people in Texas sliding on the black ice, and we are just cracking our, oh my God, it's freaking hilarious. They're like doing the splits. It look like Bambi on ice. It's
oh my gosh,
the best. Oh, we're just having a good time. And then they put music behind it.
Oh my gosh. So I love that you guys do that every night.
It's
you have
so
like
cute.
Your little tradition. I love that. My family in Texas, in Austin, they're sending me snow pics all the time. And I'm over here just enjoying the sun, hiking all day long. I just feel really
it's
lucky
wild.
that
It's
we
pretty
live
wild.
here.
Yeah. Then when we have days like this and we see that, we're like, oh yeah, that's why we're poor and live in California.
That's right. It's a good reminder why we can't like pay for anything. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's nice. That's nice.
I know, that's why they have like a mansion in Texas, and I'm sitting here in my little tiny house.
Hello. Yeah, we can barely walk through. That's why we pay.
You bump into everybody as you're walking through there. Yep, that's us.
Yep. And every time you go get gas, you're like, how much? What's the price of gas? Like you lose your mind. But thank you, weather. We love you.
Yep.
So I am super duper excited about today's episode. I'm finishing up the Ripper series.
Yes.
Final episode. Lots of fun, crazy stuff happening in this one. I've been covering the Netflix series, The Ripper. If you're just tuning in, go back, listen to the other parts of The Ripper that we've covered so far. Today will be part 4 and the final episode that we're doing on it. I really, really enjoyed this series. I really enjoyed it. There was a lot of different things that they talked about, not just the Ripper, but what was happening at the time, right?
Yeah.
A large movement with feminism, just how the tides were turning for women in a lot of ways. I feel really grateful all the time that I'm a woman living here at this day and age, right? It's been really hard to be a woman for a long time. And we are so lucky in so many ways. And during this time, tides were really changing at what women could do. And they were kind of coming into themselves, being more independent. And I just love hearing about that. That was also part of the series. So I did think that was really nice that they covered what was happening with the people, the mindset of the people at the time in it. I'm super like my energy is going. I am drinking my positivity. I just want to let y'all know I am doing a weight loss challenge right now, and I am in it to win it. And I really do miss cocktails.
Oh, I know. And we're just rubbing it in your face.
Yeah, they drink in front of me, and I'm like, oh, that's really nice of you guys. You know what I mean? Like, way to be supportive. But I honestly, like, when I'm not drinking, I feel so good. Like, my body gets really inflamed.
Right.
And so there are really good aspects to not partaking all the time, but I am kind of jealous that y'all are having your like party in front of me. It's fine. It's fine. It's not a big deal.
You really, I understand that. I really do feel better when I don't drink. I told you guys last night, I woke up at 3 a.m. I couldn't go back to sleep. I had wine. And I think there's some scientific something or other where you don't get into REM when you have alcohol.
Yes,
so you don't get
true.
that deep, don't get that deep sleep. So then that's why you wake up and you feel like shit. Even if you're not hungover, you're tired and you're like, I slept through the whole fucking night. Like, what happened?
Just to let everyone know, my challenge ends March 15th. And then I will really enjoy like a lemon drop or a margarita. I don't know. All right. Buckle up, y'all. We are doing the Ripper top 4. So we start off with this episode and we see an older gentleman, and he's talking to maybe the news or something like that on television. And he's saying that he was at work and a lot of his workmates are like talking, and he's kind of listening, like, what's going on? What's up? And one of the workmates is like, hey, do you have like a brother named Peter? And the guy's like, no, I don't have a brother named Peter, but my son is named Peter. And the guy like throws down the newspaper in front of him. And on the newspaper is his son's house with them saying they caught the Ripper. It was so sad. He was like, oh, it's my son's house on the front page. And he said, this is my boy. Oh, God. So that's how we found out his son is the Ripper. Oh my God. So insane. So insane. Okay. All right. So then we see this crazy old footage, and I really do love all the footage in this series. It's just like all 70s hair, outfits, love it. So in this footage, we see the men, right, the senior investigators of this case just coming through, bump, right? Like they just did it, right? They won the World Series. They have cameras going off. They have reporters. They're like surrounded. It's like their moment. They caught him, right? They did it, you guys. And they are just smiling ear to ear, right? It is their moment, okay? So this is January 1981. And they're having a news conference. It's been 5.5 years since the first attack started with the Ripper. And these are the police officers from West Yorkshire. We see Ronald Gregory, and he just gives me an off vibe. Like, I would never want to be like in a hotel alone with him. Do you know what I mean? Like, ew. He just gives me an ew vibe. And he is the chief constable of West Yorkshire, if you guys remember. And, they're questioning him at the news conference, and he's saying he will appear before the court in Dewsbury tomorrow. Dewsbury, there's never been a more English word. So he's saying that he will be in front of the court tomorrow. And one reporter yells out, hey, does he have a Geordie accent? Right? Because that's what they've been looking for, right? And Ronald says, I can't tell you that. I haven't heard him speak. And he's just smiling, like he has a creepy smile, y'all. Ew. And he goes, but we are absolutely delighted with the developments at this stage. Big smile, really delighted, he yells out at this news conference. And all the men are like, like elbowing each other, high fives, hitting each other with their towels. That's what it feels like right now. It's so gross, right? So then it goes to Alan Whitehouse, who has spoken throughout the series. I really love him. He's from the Yorkshire Post. And he goes, he was caught purely by chance. Okay. It had nothing to do with this police investigation that he got caught. Right.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Right. So they need to stop high-fiving each other over here. So then they show the two officers that arrested him. Do you guys remember the two officers? They were on patrol. They saw a car with a man and woman in it, and just the plates didn't match the car, right? So we meet Robert Hyde. He was one of the officers. He was with South Yorkshire Police. And then we see his, do they call him co-officers? No. His partner.
A co-officer.
This is my co-officer. That's what I would say. But the other officer, his name is Bob Ring. And wow. He's like a caricature of himself. Do you know like those drawings they do at Disneyland? He looks like that, like almost like cartoony. And he's by far like the most serious human being that's ever walked this planet. And at one point he looks at the camera and he says, it was just straightforward coppery. And that's what he said on what happened. Straightforward coppery. So that was fantastic. He is quite a personality. So we see a woman speaking, and it turns out that this was the woman that was in the car with him when they took him in. And she said she was sitting in the car with him, she was a prostitute, and he was acting really nervous. She said she tried to like reassure him. And at one point she said to him, don't worry, I'm not going to hurt you. And the man laughed. Oh, isn't that so creepy to think about?
That's so creepy.
So then she said that the police came up to the car and he was like petrified. He like, oh my God, he freaked out, right? Of course. She said, if they didn't come, they would have found my body in a wasteland because he is the Ripper and I'm a prostitute. What a crazy thing to happen to this woman, thinking about how she could have been the next victim if they didn't just walk up on the car. The man we have in custody is Peter William Sutcliffe. That's who it is. The Ripper is Peter William Sutcliffe. Oh my goodness. He's 35 years old. He's a lorry driver. What's a lorry driver, you ask? I don't know. You guys, he like drives the thing like this, boop, 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 like in
like a taxi or something?
No. Like, like construction and like you pick up stuff to move it like that. Boop, boop, boop. You know what I mean? I'm just using technical terms here.
It's like a forklift, but British.
He's a driver for this company. It's very British, and we'll never know. And okay. So he's a lorry driver, and then they give out his straight up address in this report. They say he lives at 6 Garden Lane, Heaton, Bradford. And I wrote in my notes, they gave his address like he hasn't been found guilty of anything.
Oh, but he's guilty with the people that come with the torches.
Wow. They gave his address out, you guys. This day and age, that would have been a lawsuit.
These cops.
You know what? They're men. That's what happened here. That's what happened.
Oh my God.
Okay. So then we are talking with Keith Hellowell. I really, really like him throughout this series. He's a superintendent in Bradford. He's the one where he was young and he got married, and his wife said, you need to go get a job. So he became a cop. Love him. Okay. He said, look, Peter was in custody, and normally someone in this situation says, lawyer, I need my lawyer. But he did the exact opposite, right? He did not ask for a lawyer, and he just wanted to come clean or just share everything. And he gave every detail, every account. He just spewed it all over the place. It was crazy.
Made it easy.
Yes, in this way he did. He did. So he outlined all of his murders. He went through each one, and he started with Wilma McCann. He said that he went into detail where it happened, what they were wearing, what he said to each one of them, and what the women would say back to him in these encounters.
Wow.
Which is just creepy. He said which car he used for which murder, which tools and murder weapons he used. So he was just like, whoo. Do you guys remember when BTK like went in front of the court and was like, oh, this is what I did, like with no emotion? That's basically what he did here with officers. He just gave it all and didn't give a fuck. So he said that he knew that they had his tire mark. He knew that they were trolling certain areas at certain times. He knew that they had that 5-pound note, and that he did try to go back and get it because he knew it'd be traced back to him. And why did he know all of these things? Because it was out in the media. And this is the thing, you know, media can be really detrimental to cases like this. So he knew all the stuff that they had all the time, right? So next day, after this amazing news conference with these old boys, it's about 10 a.m. at the Dewsbury courthouse, and it's just a massive crowd waiting, right? Like massive. People are like sitting on top of their cars, right? Waiting. They want to see him. They want to see the Ripper. They want to see the monster, right? I get this. I'd probably be there too. I would have been there. You guys, I'm not gonna lie. We would have gone together. Okay, so then word came through that maybe the hearing wouldn't be happening around that time. So all these people are waiting. They don't know when he's gonna come through. And the reporters are waiting inside court all day long for this shindig to happen. It seemed like it was a very long day for people. But because it kind of took all day, more and more people came, and it ended up being 2,000 people in this crowd waiting for him. Crazy. And part of me thinks that they did this because it would give them more of a look at what we did, like when the officers show up with their man. Do you know what I mean?
Stupid. Yeah.
I got that feeling that that's kind of what happened here. So you look in the crowd, and people are holding like signs and ropes and saying, let's hang him. If this had been, I don't know, like 100 years ago, they would have just strung them up.
Oh, yeah.
They were all dead. Crazy mob, pitchforks, the whole thing. Okay. You know, a line of cop cars, right? They're all pulling up to take him inside. And so the cars come through. One of them has him in it, and he gets out, and he actually has a blanket over him. And in the footage, you hear people yelling, and it was almost too loud to listen to while watching the series. It was very loud. People were pissed, right? They wanted to take him down. It was actually a little scary. So Chris is talking about how she's in court, and that he comes in, and that he walks into the dock, right? So probably maybe the area where they stand to speak to the judge, right? So he walks into the dock, and she said, you know, I almost missed him. And then when she realized it was him, she thought, you? Like this guy? Right? He was a very insignificant looking man. There's nothing special about him. He does not look scary. He looks like a normal ass person. I would get in the car with him right now. I'd be like, really? This guy? Like, he seriously has a look about him that you just don't believe he's about to do anything. Do you know what I mean?
In the 70s, correct. Today's time, hell no.
I mean, if he's wearing a mask and I'm wearing a mask, I'm just kidding. Okay. So the point is he just looks like this guy totally and completely, right? We will post photos of what he looks like, and it's like,
he's still so creepy to me. I don't know. Just because I know what he did, I guess, and like I'm like judging the book by the cover.
You're so good at that. You know what I mean? Okay. So then we meet Tracy Brown, and she's sharing her story with us. And she says that when she was 14, she was attacked. 14 years old, a baby. It was the 27th of August, 1975. And she's explaining and she's showing us, like, I remember the hammer hitting the back of my head. It hit me so hard, and it was about 5 hits with the hammer. And she said that this caused obviously several fractures to her skull. Just terrifying that this happened to her. And they show pictures of her when she was 14. She's a little baby, just a baby girl. So awful that this happened. Okay. So then 2 years later, right, she's seeing in newspapers, this is, 1977, that there's an unknown attacker murdering women. And she had like this thought, like, this is probably the man who attacked me. This might be the man that attacked me. Like, she just had that come to her, right? And so she went to the Keeley police station. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And she's going in to make this report to let them know, I think this is the same person. And the officers smirked at her and said, well, you're fun and games today. They laughed at her. Let's just take this off the table. She's a survivor. Like, something horrific happened to her, and why you wouldn't treat her with like the most sincerity and respect is beyond me. But they didn't take her seriously, and they laughed at her, which is crazy. And that's kind of the feeling I get about this time. Women just were not taken seriously at all. So awful. She said they thought it was a joke. They said, she's not a prostitute, so it couldn't be the same person, because they're being told, no, he only attacks prostitutes. So this girl's crazy. Awful. I feel so bad that, 1, she was attacked, and 2, she had officers of the law laughing at her. Shouldn't happen. Not cool, you guys. So then Tracy is saying that when they caught the Ripper, they posted his picture on the front page of probably every newspaper, but she saw it on the front page, and she looks at her mom and she goes, oh my gosh, that's him. It was him. That was him. And he's wearing like a suit, and I'm assuming that this is a picture taken maybe from his wedding day. Again, he's just such a normal, unassuming person in this photo. He, is dressed up for an occasion, and that's the guy. That's the guy that hit her in the head 5 times, and she immediately recognized him. So it's just chilling, right? The woman, Malia, that has been sharing with us her story. Remember, she was attacked in the alleyway. The officers took her statement. She never heard from them again. She said that the picture came out, and she just thought, oh, it's him. I recognized him, and I didn't want to recognize him. She didn't want it to be him, remember? She went into full on like lockdown denial, didn't want to talk about it with anyone, didn't want to be associated to it. And she's like, that was him. That was the guy. So that's just awful. And then we have Wilma's son, Richard, who was just a little boy when his mother was murdered. And he's saying, by that time, when he was caught, he was delivering like newspapers out to people, like a paper boy.
Yeah.
And on the paper that he was delivering, he saw the picture, and he's like, yeah, this is not what I expected at all. That in his mind as a kid, he imagined like this monster like creature, like coming out at night and attacking women. And then he looks at this picture. He's like, not this guy, right?
Mhm.
But that's probably why he got away with it. Obviously, the media, everyone wants to get to know who Peter is, right? What made him tick. And so they're talking to neighbors. We have Anthony O'Callahan, and his neighbors just like, look, he kept to himself, but he was never rude. Like, you say hi, he says hi, like just a neighbor, right? He was just a regular guy. Another neighbor, she was talking about how he was just amiable, pleasant, that there was nothing bad there at all, and that she is actually really stunned that it was him. She said she really just can't believe it's him. She just really can't believe it. And you hear that from so many people because he was so unassuming, right? But then we're talking to people who like knew him like at the bars or whatever, college people. And they were saying, look, he was really quiet and it was really hard for him to make conversation, right? Like he would say, oh, let's go do like a group date, like in college, maybe. Let's go do a group date. And it just was painful to do that because he wouldn't speak the entire time because he was so like shy. It was crazy, right? So not a great conversationalist. And one guy's like, look, he was a really good looking guy, but if a chick like ever started a conversation with him, it was very soon into that conversation that they were pulling back and saying, there's something off here, right? You know, like when you meet someone, you go,
Yeah.
I get that feeling that probably happened a lot. His father, John, said he was a really kind, gentle, timid child. And there's only one way to be with a child like that, and it's kind. And we were always kind to him. And he is the last person in the world that anyone would have suspected to do something like this because he was so timid and shy with everyone. Those are the people you got to watch out for. They're always scheming. I'm just kidding. And then we have badass Joan Smith from the Sunday Times. Remember, she's the one that got the report from the FBI. Like, she just is doing, I just love her vibe. I do. So she's saying, you know, look, there was this huge desire for him to be like a monster, right? People like, he's a monster. And she was like, and I just thought that really just couldn't be true, that there's always something else that needs to be looked into, right? With people like this. So of course, because she's a badass, she did a deep dive into his background. And she said that atmosphere that he was raised in and the surrounding area, there was a serious contempt for women and there was a dislike of women, and that was very normalized in his home, right? Women are less than. Anything with women and femininity was like a weakness. It was looked at as a weakness in their home, right? And that he wanted to be with his mom. So, you know, I just don't think he was treated as well as John is portraying, and maybe he didn't realize he was being a total dick face to his son. That's what I think. You know what I mean? And then maybe as he got older and he was feeling maybe frustrated with women, he had maybe struggles, right? That he then identified himself as, well, to be a man, I need to be violent, right?
Right.
And then would become violent with women. So maybe that's what's happened here, okay? So the trial is coming closer and information is coming out and people are realizing, oh my God, the West Yorkshire police did a terrible job on this inquiry.
Nah.
Right? It did not go well. Officers were told all the time, look, if he doesn't have a Geordie accent, forget him, move on.
Right.
They really clung to that. And Peter was saying that when that tape came out with the voice, he thought it was a joke. And he was like, well, I'm in the clear because everyone is looking for someone with a Geordie accent. He thought it was great that happened. I want to know if they ever found the person that made the tape.
Right.
Who the fuck did that? What an asshole. He really,
he totally impeded the investigation.
Yeah, because a lot of women died because they were looking for someone else.
Yeah.
Think about that. What a little fucker.
Oh,
we
yeah.
should find him. We should do weird shit to that guy. You know what I mean? Okay,
For real.
Weird shit.
Don't be so judgy, Timo. I mean violent, weird shit, not like
Yeah,
good
that
sex, weird
not,
shit.
not like
Listen.
Etsy weird shit. No.
Side note, we looked at Easter penises on Etsy today. So what do you and your friends do?
Never want to go down.
No, I did. It was fun. That was fun. Okay, so then we had Andy Lap 2 talking. We've heard his story throughout the series, and he's with the West Yorkshire Police. He said that when he heard that it was Peter Sutcliffe, that he felt like someone had hit him in the chest. He just felt sick because he's like, oh no. He drives to the police station, goes to his locker, he pulls out his old notebooks, and in the notes, he sees, yes, he did. He interviewed Peter. Oh, and so he tells this story of what happened with this. Crazy. So in the note, it put interviewed Peter Sutcliffe, and he put a note like not satisfied, as in we need to look into this guy, right?
Oh.
Yes. So in the notes, it explains that him and another officer, they had gone to Peter's home. Peter let them in, and they asked them questions. So, you know, some of the questions they asked him is, did he frequent prostitutes? And Peter was like, no, not at all. I have no need. I'm recently married. And then they show like a picture of Sonia Sutcliffe. He was married to Sonia. Think about the wife and that craziness, because they say that she had no idea this was going on. So that's really sad too. The officers asked Peter, you were visiting Manchester on this day. There was a sighting of a male in this type of vehicle. What were you doing that day, right? And he said, well, we were having a housewarming party. All my family was there. And then I took my parents home and came back, right? So then the officers are asking, you know, more deep dive things. And they find out that his shoe size was 8.5, which was the same size of the offender. The note was found on the victim, and this was in 77, in Manchester. And they interviewed everyone at this workplace, Clark, where he's a lorry driver. Remember that? And we meet Peter's boss, William Clark. In my notes, I put gross guy. He had like a sweaty lip. Oh, gross. And he was like kind of smiling through his interview. I'm like, ew, I don't like this. I just did not like him. So it was a big joke at work, and his nickname at work was Ripper. Era. Okay. Not the lorry driver in Bradford. They were not doing this investigation right at all. It just makes me sick. All the women that died because these men had their heads so far up their own ego asses, like seriously, right? So in April 1981, the courts transferred the case to the Old Bailey in London. And this case is Britain's most notorious serial killer case that they tried, right? So of course the Old Bailey seemed to fit. He was charged with the murder of 13 women, and he came back to the way that they do their system is obviously different than ours, but I guess he countered with, I will plead guilty to 13 counts of manslaughter due to diminished responsibility. He's basically saying, I'm crazy. I did this because I'm mentally ill, right? So that there was a difference there. He's also charged with 7 attempted murders, and he admitted to those. Okay. So the jury's put together. We have 6 men, 6 women, and they show like crowds of people coming to the Old Bailey, and it's freezing there. It is freezing, and people are sleeping on the sidewalk, staying overnight, just hoping to get in to see the case. Again, we would be there. We would be doing that. But it just looked so miserable, and they were all doing it, right, to see what was going on. In court, they laid out screwdrivers, knives, hammers, and a hacksaw that he used. So it was very dramatic that the way that they laid it all out. And remember, the family members are there. The family members of the victims are there, and they have to see that, and they have to hear everything that happened. That makes me so sad. They said that the first 2 days of the trial, they just went over everything he said in the police interviews, all those details, what he did to each one, and the families had to hear it. So then he testifies. He gets up and he's going to speak, which, that doesn't always happen in cases. He gets up and they say that the court went silent. Everyone wanted to hear, every little thing that he was going to say, right? His mission to kill began at Bingley Cemetery as a teenager, where he worked as a grave digger. Not weird. Not weird. Okay. He said that in the middle of digging a grave, because he's a grave digger, he was taking a rest, and then he hears this voice, and it's very similar to a human's voice, but the words were kind of mixed up. And then he felt like it was coming from a gravestone. So he walks to the grave, and all of a sudden he has this wonderful feeling and believes that this voice was the voice of God. So then he's looking out over the valley in the area, and he's thinking about heaven and earth and the universe and how insignificant we all are. But then I felt so important because I had been chosen to hear the voice of God, right? He's saying crazy shit. He says that he hears voices from gravestones, and they're all telling him to kill every single prostitute he can. So he's telling everyone in court that he's insane. He wants them to say he's crazy, right? They have 3 psychiatrists testify that he has paranoid schizophrenia. And, when this is happening, you can tell people are like getting kind of worried because they don't want him to be found insane, because he'll just go to a hospital. That's not what they want, right? They want him to go to prison. It turns out that Peter had knowledge on how to simulate paranoid schizophrenia. Why, you ask? His wife, Sonia, had the condition. He lived with her. He knew what it was to have paranoid schizophrenia, right? He knew the symptoms, how to act with the doctors when they, were interviewing him, right? To pull this all off. Also, I find it very interesting that the statement he made that it was God's will to kill all prostitutes, right, that he had mentioned, doesn't really hold up, because he killed all women and not just prostitutes. That doesn't even make sense, Peter. I caught you. Boom. Okay. May 1981, a verdict comes through. It took about 6 hours of deliberation. And they come back and they said, yeah, he was totally sound in mind. He knew exactly what he was doing. So that was a huge, big deal, right? So the jury rejected his plea of manslaughter due to diminished responsibility. Now, here's something I don't understand. So please explain to me, y'all. He got 30 years. That's it. I don't understand. I don't know, maybe it's different there than it is here, because I feel like a serial killer here would just be like life in prison or like 300 million years, how we do. And there, they were like, he got 30 years and that's unusually long. And it's like, what? Like, what?
It should have been 13 life sentences. That's what we would have done here.
Hell
What?
Yeah.
So that I was
Put him
like, what?
away.
So he got 30 years. And they're talking to Beryl Leach after everyone's coming out of the courtroom. Remember, this is Barbara's mother. And, she's saying, I would rather him not be in there and our daughter to be with us, right? Because they're asking her if she's happy. And she's like, no, my daughter's dead. Another mother is saying hanging is, far too good for this guy. He should go to prison, right? Let him rot, basically. So obviously the West Yorkshire police made major errors of judgment in this case, right? And so Home Secretary Mr. Whiteclaw, he came out and he kind of handled business, he said that if they didn't basically fuck up like they did, others wouldn't have been killed, right?
Mhm.
And Doreen Hill sued Ronald Gregory for the negligence over her daughter Jacqueline being murdered. I've never heard of that before, but basically, you've done fucked up your job so bad it cost my daughter her life, basically, and she sued him.
Wow.
Ronald Gregory, the guy with the creepy ass smile, yeah, that guy. And then George Oldfield, he's 57 years old, and what they did with him, right, is they moved him to the head of operational services, which is responsible for traffic and the dog and horse sections. Some might say a demotion,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
For sure.
Yeah. So all the people, all the senior people that worked the Ripper case were either moved, sidelined, ostracized, and blamed, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because they fucked up. They did. Ronald Gregory is so shady. He actually sold his story about everything they went through the case, and then bought a house and moved to Spain. And one of the officers is like, look, Ronald Gregory was someone like you would consider a leader. We all looked up to him and admired him. And then he sold his story and moved away because he's a fucked up person. He's a douchebag. I don't know why they ever looked up to this guy. The first 5 seconds of an interview with him, I'm like, he's a bad person. He's a shady person. So I think Ronald Gregory got away with, doing a terrible job, basically. So then, March 1984, Peter is taken to Broadmoor Top Security Hospital. What? And they are saying that he is suffering from a grave form of mental illness.
Oh
so
my
this
God.
is 3 years after the trial had taken place, and he convinced the authorities that he was insane in those 3 years. And they did. They put him in a mental hospital, right? Where they have privileges and visitors and so fucking shady. So Keith Hallowell said that they had been looking at other cases that they felt could be linked to Peter. And they thought maybe like these 20 cases, but probably these certain 10, they were pretty sure he had something to do with. And they decided to reinvestigate them. And so he went to go interview Peter at his cushy hospital, right? So he says, he's waiting in the waiting room, and then Peter comes in and he said it just felt so sinister and yucky, like that bad negative energy. Like he walks in, ugh. And he felt so pissed at Peter for being in this hospital and not in prison. It just seems so fucked, right? And then he said that he starts asking Peter questions about these cases, and that Peter seemed almost proud to be remembering all of these things and to share with him. And it just made him sick, right? That a lot of these cases, they didn't have enough evidence. And so they needed Peter basically to confess, to say, yes, that was me, right? So November 1992, we're talking to Tracy Brown. Remember, she's the 14-year-old that got hit in the head 5 times, and the officers then laughed at her later. Yeah, Tracy. So she says that officers show up to the house and they say, oh, Peter Sutcliffe made a confession to Keith Hallowell. He made 2 confessions, and one of them was, he did attack you. I guess you were right, Tracy, right? And she goes, will he be charged with my attack? And they said, no, there's no point. He's in the hospital. Like, there's no point to do that. And Tracy was like, well, what about me? What about my justice? Right? She's a victim, right? So this poor woman really went through awful things. I feel really bad for her. She said she was really angry about this for a long time, but then she had to decide, look, I'm not going to be angry anymore. And she did. She let it go. She wanted to live a happy life. And it sounds like she's in a much better place. I just feel really bad for her, right? And they do think that there's more crimes connected to him. They just don't have the evidence, right, to pull that together. You know, this case and what he did had a huge effect on women in London. They're interviewing, you know, Krista and Joan and everything, and it was just like we all kind of came together and said, look, women really need to watch out for ourselves, and we really need to be in control of our independence. And that it had a huge effect on a whole generation of women, all of this that happened, and that we really need to put Peter in the shadows and really just focus on the women, right? These were mothers and daughters and sisters and friends, right? And their loss is still felt by their families. It's just terrible. Peter did also confess to a murder of Marguerite Walls, who was killed in August of 1980. Okay. And this piece of shit, McFuckface, died on November 13th, 2020. Woo!
2020 gave us something.
That was a little while ago.
Yeah.
One good thing happened in 2020. Peter died. So I wanted to share all the names of his victims. I'm going to start with the murder victims. We have Wilma McCann, Emily Jackson, Irene Richardson, Patricia Atkinson, Jane McDonald, Jean Jordan, Yvonne Pearson, Helen Ritka, Vera Millward, Josephine Whitaker, Barbara Leach, Marguerite Walls, and Jacqueline Hill. And women who were attacked and survived are Anna Rogalewski, Olive Smelt, Tracy Brown, Marcella Claxton, Maureen Long, Marilyn Moore, Upta Bendara, Mo Leah, Teresa Sykes, and Marcella Claxton at the time was 4 months pregnant when she was attacked by him, and she lost the baby, and that baby is the victim. So he's a McFuckface, 100%. He is a piece of shit. But we do need to think about these women and how they were so loved by so many people. And I hate that these officers really just didn't do their job properly and cost them a lot of their lives.
Yeah, and
So,
even though he wasn't that guy on the tape and wrote the letter, he still was very similar to the Victorian Jack the Ripper, and like how he attacked these women. So wild.
What a piece of shit, right? We do need to get a shirt or something that says "Don't be a McFuckface." You know what I mean?
For sure.
All right, y'all. Are you ready? Are we gonna get crazy scary? Ooh.
I'm doing Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary, okay? And it's in Petros, Tennessee. So we're going to Tennessee, y'all. We're going to the South. At the end of the Civil War, railroad construction and coal mining began to boom. So this happened throughout the entire state of Tennessee. These special coal veins were like mostly in the remote areas. So housing needed to be provided for all the coal miners. So because they couldn't just go home and come back. So since the job was super dangerous, of course.
What? Coal mining is dangerous? Oh, this is
Very.
the first I'm hearing. Wow.
And they were basically paid crap money, y'all, like totally crap to put their lives on the line here. They like overpriced, like they had these like little like towns that would sell like groceries and clothes and whatever, and they overpriced them. So basically these guys were like, once their rent was paid and whatever, like they had no money to do whatever.
Awful. It's like so living in California, you know what I mean?
Right. So they went on strike, and the reason why they did this was because they're like, fuck, we want to get paid more money. And they did this specifically in the winter months because that's when like the coal is needed for the heat.
Wow, good for them.
Right. Well, it worked to a point. Then they decided to do the prison lease system. this happened throughout the South. So because the states couldn't build and maintain prisons, the state prisons themselves, they did something called a convict lease program. Basically, they made these convicts go out and work in the mines.
Okay, Lisa convict.
Right. So it cut costs and it brought in a lot of money for the states. But of course, then it took the jobs away from the real coal miners.
Wow. Interesting.
Basically, they exploited the 13th Amendment, which abolished slavery, but allowed involuntary servitude as criminal punishment. So basically, it was legal slave labor.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. That's crazy.
In 1877, after the federal troops left the South, state officials handed down long prison terms to ex-slaves. And so at that time, the majority of the prisoners in the South were Black.
Oh my gosh. This just feels racist. Anyone else?
It's so racist.
Anyone?
It's so racist.
Yeah, it's like the worst. It's disgusting that we did this and we treated people like this. Oh my God.
So even though slavery was abolished, it was still happening in other ways.
Right.
Kind of like maneuver
they found a loophole.
Legally.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sickening.
So when these convict lease programs were used to mine coal, the real coal miners basically got pissed and they started burning down all these prisons that the prisoners were in.
Oh shit.
So they had to take them away and put them out. Basically, that's what was happening. And this caused so much drama because then the state had to hire like all these guys, like to, stop all the fighting and all this stuff. So finally, these contracts expired because there were no prisoners to release in the program. And they decided, okay, it's time for us to build a huge prison. And they actually built the first maximum security prison, which is known as Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary.
What?
But
this is crazy.
In 1896, the inmates were the ones that actually built the prison. So they were working to build the prison that they were going to actually stay in. So they built
this is crazy, you guys. This is
wild.
Insanity.
I know, it's so wild. And if you're looking at it in a paranormal side, you can just see all this hardship that's happening and all this shit that's just festering and festering and festering. So the first prison was this huge wooden structure. It was basically made out of wood. So not only was this hard work, but there was so much violence going on at the same time. There were so many different accidents, not only just accidents in the mines, but just random accidents, while you have these like criminals that don't know how to build shit and they're out there trying to build shit. They had mass illness. Diseases were rampant. They had TB, tuberculosis, typhoid fever, pneumonia, and then 3/4 of the Black prisoners brought in syphilis. So it was a wreck. It was just
this is a hot mess. It's not working. Let's do something else. Is that what happened?
It's like a festering pool of just grossness. They had minimal medical care, or they provided minimal medical care, and a lot of these prisoners died as a result.
This is so inhumane. This is so gross. I hate all of this.
So the first years of Brushy prisoners, they worked all day in the mines. If they didn't work fast enough, they were whipped. So it was basically full-on slave labor. And then by 1931, Brushy held nearly 1,000 prisoners, which was about 300 more than it was meant to hold. Yeah. Since it was built out of wood, fires would happen all the time too. So they, people died in fires. These prisoners died, it was just not good. So they finally decided to build a new prison made out of concrete. Okay. And
they could have done that the first time around. They just said, no, let's just do wood. Let's see what happens. That's what happened here. Okay, cool. Cool story.
It was the little piggies are making it.
So where did the concrete come from? So they forced the inmates then to go break sandstone out of a nearby quarry.
Oh, sweet baby
Yeah.
baby Jesus. Oh my God.
Wow.
So they're working in a quarry and a coal mine, and they're building their
A
own
prison that they're probably going to spend the rest of their lives in. Yeah.
I bet,
Yeah, if
like
they
every
don't die
day.
before
Yeah,
they make
yeah.
it.
Every day they were like, you know what? Today's not a great day. You know, they just
Yeah.
had like
Uh-uh.
negative vibes all the time.
Mhm.
Fuck.
But
Ugh.
let's go to the other side here. Okay. This prison was known as the Alcatraz of the South. By 1934, it stood 4 stories high and was the only prison in the US to have 3 walls. The 4th was a massive cliff. Plus, it was surrounded by an 18-foot stone wall and also surrounded by running water, which there was a
Like
creek.
a moat with alligators in it and shit.
So we talked about running water, how it riles up spirit activity. And they do mention
It's
in
a
this
conduit.
documentary, yeah, they mentioned that it also traps them in. Okay, so just remember that. It was an impenetrable fortress. And if the walls didn't keep you in, the mountains did. You know, the prison is surrounded by rugged, wooded mountains. So it's like the prison is in the middle of this like huge valley of just like horrible mountains. Like it's wild. Like wait till you see the pictures of this place. So there was only one road in and out. And when you pulled up to the building, you saw the main prison was shaped like a cross. But guess what? It was an upside down cross.
Oh no.
What?
Why?
What? So if you
What?
look at it, the little point is right in the front and then it goes out and then it goes back. So yeah, above, if you're looking down at it, it's an upside down cross. Bananas. Okay.
That's crazy.
So it was 113 years of holding the worst of criminals. Okay, you guys, this was like, they called it the gates of hell, and it was basically known as the end of the line. If you were sent to Brushy, that was it. You weren't getting out. You were either dying or living there forever. Like this was the place, like you did not want to go there. So they were treated really bad, but these guys were like really, really bad too. So they were accused of everything, like the most horrible, unspeakable crimes imaginable. It wasn't much different inside. There was so much cruelty going on. Former corrections officer Bill Harvey said it was a living nightmare inside. There was assault, there was rape, there was murder. And since it was 4 stories, these prisoners would get into fights and then they would just throw each other down and they would fall 4 stories down to the concrete and die. So there weren't like,
Oh my
God.
yeah,
Oh.
there weren't gates.
So much
Then
death.
after this was
Wow.
happening for a while, then they decided to put like gates up. But yeah, basically they would just dump
Mm-mm.
you over. I mean, one guy said you basically had to have eyes on the back of your head because anyone could just come up and dump you over and that would be it. Another former corrections officer, Deborah Williams, said that it was such a violent place. Inmates were beaten on a daily basis just for the smallest of things. Basically, they were tortured and treated like animals. They were even taken out to the yard and whipped by the guards. Several were actually murdered in the process.
No. Oh my gosh.
And they were just left out there in the yard to rot.
Oh my God.
So they didn't even bury them.
That's
One
terrible.
murder per week happened in this place, whether it was by the guards or by the other inmates. You guys, this place has to be like just stewing up some crazy freaking dark energy. So bananas. Roughly 10,000 deaths on the property total.
What?
Mm-hmm. One horrible place was the hole. This was a small closet-like cell, basically in total darkness. You were given 2 buckets, one for water and one to go in the bathroom.
Oh my God.
They spent days, weeks, and sometimes months. And when they came out, they were blind for a period of time.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God.
So in 1956, they actually shut the hole down and they built what they called the D block. This was totally isolated from the rest of the prison, and they built it directly on top of what they called the death house. And this is where they kept the dead inmates until family claimed them, or they were basically buried up the hill in like pauper's grave up into the cemetery. So the current general manager, Michelle Johnson, she just will not she won't step into D block ever, because the first time that she was in there, she was actually scratched really bad. It bled. And she said that whenever people go in there, they become ill and they want to throw up. And it's just like you go in and you get the chills and you're just really like freaked out. So yeah, crazy.
This place sounds like the fucking worst, dude.
It
like,
really does.
The energy, the badness.
Oh my God.
So,
yeah. I could only imagine. And I'm going to tell you a little bit of what fucking
you
happened
guys,
here.
This is upsetting my tummy. I don't like it so much.
Okay. So I watched 2 different investigation shows. My new fave, and I told you guys about it. It's called Ghost Asylum. They have 4 seasons out right now. They've been out for a while and I watched them here and there, but I didn't really care about it very much until I watched them do this. And then I'm like, wait a minute, these guys are really hot. So
wait a minute, they're hot.
now I'm going to watch all seasons and see what other places I can do that they go to.
Other hot people they bring on the show.
Right. And their little spew of their show is they're going to be the first.
Did you say spew?
Yeah.
Their spiel?
Their
little spiel. Okay.
Yeah, their little spiel is to be the first investigative group to actually capture a spirit. So they have 2 founders. They have an historian, they have a engineer, and then they have there's another dude, I forget what he does.
I don't understand. They want to capture one as on video, or like a box with a stick underneath
like
it.
Ghostbusters.
With a piece of cheese.
Exactly.
Okay, I got it. Okay.
So what this engineer dude does is he built this like weird thing that you hook up all the stuff to. They want to capture it in a box and take it out and release it somewhere else.
I fucking love all of this. Yes. No, keep going. I'm into it. I want it.
Real life Ghostbusters, baby.
But so this episode was the finale of season 4. So it's like I saw the very end of the whole show basically. So now I have to go back in time. So I don't know what they've actually done with this box thingy, but what they do is they tell the spirits, do you want out of here? I have the power to get you out of here. Come to me. So that's their like thing that they do. So, okay, it's wild. So the second one,
you know what this reminds me of?
What?
So good. 13 Ghosts.
Yeah, 13 Ghosts.
I saw that so long ago. I'll have to watch it again.
It's so good.
Because he has them all like captured in different rooms, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so the second show is Destination Fear. It's basically a spinoff of Ghost Adventures. There's this dude named Dakota, and he was like the cameraman. He came in really late in the show's like career, and now he went off and started doing his own thing. And it's him, his sister Jessie.
He's doing it.
Yeah, so him, his sister Jessie, and then his like best friend that he's had since like he was a little kid, and they're just traveling across the United States in an RV together, and he's the only one that knows where they're going. And then like right before they go, they get to like open up like the book, and the book tells them like where they're going. It's such a fun show.
Cute. Why don't we do that? Get in my RV that I don't have.
Oh my God, it would be so much fun.
I know.
So Ghost Asylum interviews a former inmate, and his name is Harold Gator Evans. And he comes out and he's wearing these little overalls. He's so cute. And I'd say that he was probably like in his probably 60s. And he said, if walls could talk. That's basically what he said, right? And he said, if there's something evil, it's in this place for sure. And then
I believe it.
He says not one. They asked him like what area is like the most like horrible part. He's like they're all. And then he starts naming off the laundry, this. He's like, there's not one place. It's horrible all over the place. He said that he would see men just like do horrible shit to each other. Like, and like the worst thing is he would just see men like hit inmates over the head with like these cinder blocks. They would just like
Oh
basically.
my God.
Yeah.
It was a free for all of just terribleness. That's what was happening.
It was.
Yeah.
So then at this point, they go to these, and the reason why I don't want to talk about the show as in like step by step what happened, but I'm going to do it on this part because what happens is bananas. So then they cut from Gator and they go to the two other guys on Ghost Asylum, and they're in the D block, and their meters are like just going all over, and it would be like in the front, and then it would go off, and they'd spin around, and it was in the back, and he's like, "What are you trying to sneak up on me?" And it was almost like this spirit was like fucking with them, like fooling around with them, right? And it would go off, it'd go on, they'd be spinning around. But the weird thing is, it was really low, like really low to the ground. And he's like, it's kind of like a child, but obviously there were no kids here. So that was like really strange to them, that when it would go off like almost like near their asses. Like it wasn't like a man behind them, it was down below. So then there's another one of the dudes, and he's over near the hole, and he's talking, and he has the ovulus, which basically it speaks words out. So like if you ask a question, and then the spirit can manipulate it to where it can answer you and actually give you a word.
Okay, that's cool.
So he's who are you, like whatever, and it says Jack. And then he was like, who, what's your name? And as he was leaving, he's like, oh, like he like starts like touching his pocket of his pants, like in the front. And he's like, I felt like it was burning. He goes, look at my shirt. So where the shirt was like hanging over his pocket, there was a round circle burn in his shirt.
What?
Yeah. And he's like, look, I have nothing in my pockets. I don't know what could have caused this. Yeah, it was so bananas. So then they go back to Gator. Gator's out there, and he's like, I did have this one experience that I witnessed, and one very infamous inmate of Brushy was this little person, and his name was Jack Jet. He smoked cigars. He would walk around and smoke cigars. And he said he had a big fucking mouth too, and he wouldn't keep it shut. So one day, this guy came up to him, stabbed him in the neck so hard, it went straight through his neck.
Oh my God.
And when he pulled it out, blood just poured out of his eyes and his ears. It was like bananas. And then continued to stab him 18 more times. So he died this horrific death. Oh, you guys, oh my God. Like, first he hears Jack, one dude hears Jack. They don't even know about this dude. He gets burnt like a cigar hole in his shirt. And then those other dudes are getting like he's fooling around, and it's this low, like they thought was a little kid.
Crazy.
So bananas.
What?
I know.
Mind blown. I'll never be the same.
It's so wild. So needless to say, Jack Jet is one of Brushy's resident spirits, and I don't think he's a very nice one at that.
Yikes.
But the number one most infamous prisoner of Brushy was James Earl Ray. Does that ring a bell?
James Earl Ray. Mm-hmm.
He assassinated Martin Luther King Jr. in 1969. Mm-hmm. And he served 29 years of a 100-year sentence at Brushy.
Okay, he got a 100-year sentence.
Right.
And McFuckface over in the UK got 30, and they were like, wow, long sentence, damn.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They're like,
what?
whoa, God, that guy.
Crazy.
So, I know, so bananas. So Ray arrived at Brushy in 1970. He wasn't there for even 1 minute when he attempted his first escape.
Sure. I mean, I would. Yeah,
but he didn't make it. 1 year later, he tried again, didn't make it. 1 year later, he tried again and didn't make it. And then in 1977, he tried again, and that was the farthest he got, but the dogs caught him. So he
the dogs.
Yep.
Not the alligators in the moat. It was the dogs.
Nope. So in 1981, 3 inmates stabbed him 22 times, and they said it was payback for the assassination. He survived, and he left the prison in 1992, but later died at another prison in Nashville in 1998.
Oh my
So wild.
goodness. He survived that. That's nuts.
Yeah. So he has said to be haunting that place too. And he has a cell, it's number 28. And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. So in Destination Fear, they are, you know, walking around. So it's the brother, sister, and the friend. And they're around James Earl Ray's cell, and they have an ovulus, and it's like spurting out words and whatever. Oh no, it's not an ovulus. I forget what it's called, but it actually just prints up words on the screen. So it doesn't verbally say it, but yeah. So the first thing it says is mommy. And they're like,
mommy.
What? Yeah. So they're like, well,
these inmates want their mommy homes. Yeah.
Or they're like, oh, who's this mommy? Like, you know, like, because they haven't seen a woman,
mama.
Right? Yeah.
Oh, geez.
And then
they're still horny from the other side.
Yes.
Oh my God.
And then it says kiss. And then they're like, oh, do you want to kiss Jesse? So she's kind of like being a jackass too. She's like, you want to talk to me? You want to talk to me? So then later on in the night, when they're all going to spend the night there in the fucking prison,
no,
they put 3 places on paper in a hat, and then they have to choose where they are going to stay the night. So of course, Jesse picks James Earl Ray's cell. She doesn't have to sleep inside of it, but she sleeps outside of it in
she doesn't have to do any of this. She should leave.
I know.
She should not stay the night. Oh my God.
Poor thing. She gets really freaked out. That little thing says to her, it says paranormal. That one has freaked me out. I'm like, yeah, obviously it's paranormal. But then it says lay down, like it's seeing her lay down there. And then it says squeeze, and she flips out. So her brother's kind of calming her down. He's like, don't show your fear, because that's going to feed it. And then she actually does spend the rest of the night there. But I'm pretty sure they probably went to sleep like at 4 a.m. and they woke up at 6 a.m. So it really wasn't like a full night of sleeping. I'm sure she only had to stay there like a couple, or she left and they made it seem like maybe she did spend the night there. You know, we don't know what happened.
God, I hope that happened. I hope she didn't spend the night. Poor baby. Oh, awful. That's terrifying, you guys. I couldn't do it. I couldn't.
So then we see Courtney Godin. She's a descendant of the landowners, and she says that the auditorium has to be the most horrible place at Brushy. She says they have a creeper there, and she says it's kind of like a shadow person, but you can only make out a head and shoulders, and it looks like it slithers or crawls on its tummy.
Yeah. That's horrifying. You
like,
see a slithering shadow.
Like, what the fuck? Right. No. Like, what is that? That's demon. That's like a demon. That's not like a prisoner. So Destination Fear, when they get there, they're just kind of like walking around, and they're like, oh, they try to get into this door and it's locked. They can't get into it. And they're like, oh, that's the auditorium. Why can't we get in there? We're going to have to figure out a way to get in there, because this is like supposedly like the most haunted place in the place. So as they're walking away, they hear bang, 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 bang on the other side of that locked door in the auditorium. Yeah.
And then they stopped the investigation and all ran away.
No, they ended up spending the night. Yeah, it's like, yeah, wild.
Yeah, of course they did. Sure. Why wouldn't they leave?
Okay, then we see Deborah. She's a former guard. I don't know if this is the Deborah Williams from the previous show, because I was watching 2 different shows and they just said Deborah, former guard. But she said they would have movie nights in the auditorium for the prisoners, and they were only given a radio and a flashlight, and they'd have to sit there with 200 inmates in the fucking dark. Yeah, that sounds like a great idea, right? And one night this dude just pops up in front of him, and he just kind of like runs past them. Well, he'd actually had his neck slit from ear to ear.
Oh
Stop.
my gosh.
And this was a common thing. I don't know why they kept doing this, but that was like the perfect opportunity for prisoners to fucking attack other prisoners because it was in the dark.
Absolutely.
They
It's
didn't
in
have
the dark.
guns or
Nobody can
nothing.
see.
Yeah, the guards had a flashlight and a fucking radio. Like, what are they going to
But
do with
then
that?
the rest of the inmates are really trying to enjoy their movie, and some dickhead is ruining it by murdering. So
Right.
rude. So rude.
So in 2009, the prison closed for good,
Oh,
but
good.
many of the lost souls never left.
Of course.
So Gator, we're going
What?
to go back to Gator. He said an awesome
This is
quote.
a great name.
I
Gator.
know.
Mhm.
Gator.
Hey, my name is Gator. I did some time here. I'll tell you about this show 25 and Jack.
And I'll show you a picture of him, and that's exactly how his voice sounds. It's like amazing.
What?
Oh my
Really?
God.
I'm channeling Gator?
Yeah. Okay. So this quote was amazing. He's like, see that chapel over there, that place with the cross? That wasn't a chapel back then. That was the worst place that you could be. Basically, anything goes from your nose to your toes. You were on your own.
Oh,
my
Gator.
goodness.
Gator, take me for a drink and tell me your stories.
I
wanna
know, right?
Everything about you, Gator. So what happened there? What
Um,
are we talking about here?
I'll
Like,
tell you 1 second. honey.
people
I'll tell you
flipped
one
over
second.
Monopoly games because they were mad, or like really scary fucked up shit?
It was like a place where they kind of like hung out. So it was kind of like a little recreation area, but they did a lot of illegal gambling there and people would get in fights and kill each other over it. So yeah, it was pretty wild. Like, yeah. So on Ghost Asylum, one of the guys goes to check out the chapel. So it's during the day, they're doing like their baseline checks. It's not investigation. They're just like kind of like noting like, okay, this is what it's like when there's no activity going on. So he has the little ovulus, the thing that actually speaks out words. And he's like, so this is the chapel. This is some place that you go for like protection or sanctuary. And all of a sudden the thing goes wrong. Oh my God.
Opposite.
And he's like, oh, okay. And then when he's walking in, it goes beast. And then it goes hell. I'm like, dude, turn around and walk your ass out of there.
Did he
Yeah.
fall on the ground
Bye-bye.
from fear? Because that's what.
No, but then that's when he says, do you want out of here? We have a device that we can take you out. We'll be here tonight.
Oh.
Yeah. So that's when he said that, right? So one thing that I really, really dig about Ghost Asylum, besides all these dudes being fucking hotter than fuck, is right before they do their investigation, they kind of get like in a huddle and they hug each other and they pray. I love that because you fucking need that, dude. You need to have some type of protection, right?
I would just put like energy spray all over myself. You know what I mean? And I would share with you guys. Energy spray huddle.
Now, like I said, I saw this at the end. I don't know if they do this normally or because it was a huge prison, but they split up their investigation in 2 nights. So the first of the 2 nights, they go into the chapel and they set up a dominoes game, which I think is so fun because they kind of like going to do like something that they can do in the dark. That's kind of like gambling, right? And they lay out their instruments. They have a couple instruments and they're like, okay, this one's for yes, this one's for no. Are you ready to play? And it says yes. And then there's like this huge cold breeze that flows through and they're like, did that door just shut? And the one that says yes lights up and they're like, are you Jack? And the yes lights up. So they're kind of having like this like conversation with Jack, right? You guys, they light up stogies and start smoking cigars to try and get that guy. Yeah, it's so wild.
They're like, you jealous,
like,
Jack? You so jealous?
Yeah, it's so crazy. So they do a couple other things and, you know, they're getting like, you know, weird, crazy, like meter readings and whatever. So then we go to the second night and there's this huge thunderstorm. Now, they have the running stream and now a thunderstorm. If you do an investigation during a thunderstorm where there's like lightning and thunder, that just adds to the craziness because they're taking in all that fucking energy from like the thunder and the lightning and all that. So this is like, yeah, this is the worst.
I wouldn't
right?
do it. I would
Yeah.
just go to like whatever 5-star hotel was nearby, and I'd be like, let me know how it goes. I would
Right.
not be able to do that. No.
Okay, so they learned that the next horrible place that there was in the cafeteria, and that's the majority of where the attacks would happen. And for some reason they didn't have guards working in there, which is wild. So I'm like, what? So there was an inmate, his nickname was Waterhead. I don't know where that came from. He was actually attacked by other inmates with a meat cleaver and this like huge long knife, like kind of like a machete. And
how did they get a meat cleaver and a machete?
well, they were in the kitchen. They got it from the kitchen. I guess they were
using machetes in the kitchen.
It was like a huge knife. Well, they said they were cutting up chicken, like, and to cut through the bones and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So they heard over the speaker, the warden's like, we got something. I don't know what their fancy word was for it in the cafeteria, or they called it the mess hall. They run in there, and the dude that they're talking to said he's like never seen so much blood come from one person in his entire life. He said, and I don't know how they did it, but they nearly chopped this dude's arm. It was basically hanging by a thread. So like he had like no arm, right?
It was hanging. It wasn't even obvious it was hanging.
Yeah, so obviously that dude died. And Waterhead is said to like really fuck people up in the cafeteria. So then they said that there was another prisoner that was killed in the cafeteria. They chopped him up into itty bitty little pieces and then flushed him down the toilet.
No. What?
Like
definitely some residual there.
Horrible.
Yeah. Oh, gross. I thought you were gonna say that they fed him to like the people. So I was relieved when you said flush them down the toilet.
So yeah, there's this crazy banana stuff happening in the cafeteria. So here's are some of the recorded experience, the paranormal experiences. If you play MLK's speech around the cell of Earl, James Earl, he starts banging like crazy, and you can hear his disembodied
like he
voice.
loses his mind if he hears Martin Luther King.
And you can hear disembodied voices going, hush, shut up, hush. Yeah.
I would be such a bitch, and I just play it all the time, like on repeat.
Yeah, like constantly.
That's what you get, fucker.
Yeah.
Shadow people have been seen coming up through the floors and actually coming through some of the windows. Growls are heard. You get whiffs of cigars, and then just numerous EVPs all over the place. So Destination Fear, they recorded a bunch of disembodied voices. They split them up. So one of the dudes, the girl went into she was by the cell. Then one of the guys was in the hole. And then one of the other guys was in the D block. And they just experienced some wild shit because it's like pitch dark in there. And so they're like sitting there just like by themselves in the dark, and some crazy stuff. Like I don't know if it was their imagination rolling with them or they were actually hearing stuff, but they were like freaked the fuck out. Ghost Asylum, some of the dudes were touched. They had objects being thrown at them. They had EVPs. They caught on camera in the cafeteria this weird beam of light, but it was like diagonal, like almost like when the sun shines in like through your window sometimes, and it gives you like a diagonal. But this was
like an alien light beam from a UFO.
Yes, in the cafeteria. They caught that. One of the guys was getting like picked on, like, and he's this like big huge dude, right? And he kind of almost gets possessed to a point, and he's like punching walls and he's getting mad, and he just wants these people to like leave him alone. It was like really crazy. And then the guy's name is Brannon, and he's the engineer, and he's the one that created this like machine. So he sets this huge thing up on the floor in the cafeteria with a fog machine, and there's like all this different things. So they're going to catch this ghost. And in this fog, they see like weird swirls that they're like, where's that coming from? And then they actually caught on camera, it looked like a person walking through the fog, like in the back, yeah, it's wild what they caught. So basically that's the end of the two investigations. So I'm going to end with this because I really think that we should do this on our road trip. They have 2 paranormal tours. The standard paranormal tour has 6-person maximum. It's $480. You get a short guided tour of the prison, and that starts at 10 p.m. This helps you familiarize you with the site. And then after the tour, you are free to investigate on your own or with the guide until 2 a.m.
Oh,
shit.
my goodness.
Yes. But then this is the one that we need to do. An overnight investigation. 12-person max, $1,500. It would just be like $100. I'll pay the additional. A short guided tour of the prison.
I like how she's planning this out.
We're going.
Well, there's like 200. Okay, 12-person. That's $1,200. If we all go $100, I'll pay the extra 200. Okay, so it's a short guided tour of the prison.
Oh, that's not the right math. Okay, all right.
That starts at 9 p.m. And then you are free to investigate on your own or with a guide till 4 a.m. So yeah,
so you get more time doing.
You get more time.
And there will be no sleeping.
Yeah. Yeah. So there you go. Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary.
If we ever did that, girl, we would walk up on the property and I would have to army crawl my body in because I'd be so freaking scared. You know this.
I know.
But
it's
if you
so
want
wild.
to, I support you and we can do it. I'll
yeah.
Cry the whole
We'll
time.
be there. We'll be there.
I love this story so much. I had never fucking heard of this place ever. And
it's a scary fucking place.
Oh my God, you guys, prisons and insane asylums, y'all. I haven't done an insane asylum, so I'm gonna have to do that one too, because there's a lot of them out there and there's some wild shit that happens.
Good job, girl. That was creepy as shit.
Yeah, girl.
Yeah, nightmares tonight.
I know, right?
Is really wrecked with chills. I'm a different person. Okay, good job, Timo. Thank you. Woo! All right, are you ready for the badass story of the week? I'm ready. I need a badass story. I need it.
We need it. All right. So I have a couple badasses. Actually, there's quite a few, but I'm going to focus on 2. And I have to tell you something that's super fucked before I tell you this story. I just mentioned my TikTok time with Aurora, and there was a TikTok that really made me want to cry one day because it was stories from kids, teens, basically. And I don't know if you guys have ever experienced anything like this, but things that were super fucked up. Like things that your boss made you do that was like morally unsound, but because you needed this job, you had to do it. And the first one that I heard was so like wrong. It was a girl saying, you know, I worked at the grocery store and I saw a mom alone and she was stealing formula. So she was like, oh, turn the cheek. I don't see her. She's not stealing shit. She was going to let her take the formula because obviously you're not taking alcohol. You're taking formula to feed your baby. So let it be. She's a badass. Unfortunately, another teen thought that they owned the store and it was taking money out of their pocket. What the fuck? And they said, hey, are you going to pay for that? And the poor mom in fear dropped the can of formula on the floor and ran out the store. The formula became dented. And
they just throw it away. Trash now.
Yeah. So the formula became dented.
Yeah,
it's terrible. this is really like, it really hurt my heart. The formula became dented, and the manager told the girl that was going to let her slide, well, it's dented, we can't sell it now. Go ahead and open it up and throw the formula in the trash. And she's like, stop. You're going to throw this away anyway. Can't I just, the lady's still out there can I give it to her? She said, no, you better not. If you do, you're fired. Can you imagine that? I would be like, fuck this job.
So shady. So shady. Oh my God.
But then so many stories just like that came through. Like, there was a girl that worked at a grocery store, and Red, you tell me if you ever had to do anything like this, but she was told, okay, go through all of the food that's about to expire, you know, whatever, chips, crackers, like all this non-perishable food. And like, we're in February, if it expires in March, we're going to have to toss that.
Yeah.
Right?
You do that constantly in the grocery store. Constantly.
And she's like, but what's going on? Why can't we donate it to like a food, you know, food pantry or something? And they said, it's so much easier. It's too much work. There's too much paperwork to fill out. No, we just have to throw it out. Like, how heart-wrenching is this, guys?
If people knew how much they do, it's every day. You do that every day in different sets, and you fill up crates full of food that's going to expire, and they take it out. We take it out to the dock to be thrown away.
It's not even expired yet, you guys. It's
That's
just
right.
like, I just don't fucking get this. I cannot wrap my head around this, you know? So, story after story, and it was like food, but also like places like Bath and Body Works or not grocery stores, clothing stores. They do this all the time. Well, this is now out of season. Nobody bought it, even though we clearanced it. So instead of like donating it to a homeless shelter or something like that, they will then damage the clothing so that there's no way that it can be used, right? And then they'll throw it in the trash, right? It's crazy. It's crazy. Target does this. I had talked to my brother about it. One of his friends worked at Target, and he had to like, say somebody opened the bag to see what size this diaper was, but like, you know, out of 100 diapers, 99 are perfectly fine. Well, now you have to toss it. Like, they used to throw liquid over the bag, the diapers, so nobody would ever use them. It's fucking ridiculous. I cannot with this. There's something has to be done. Like, legislation has to totally be changed in order for this to for us to change this, right?
If
like, companies can't keep doing this.
If people knew
people
what
don't
they
know.
did, it's sickening. It's sickening.
Yeah. So there is movement. There are movements that are out there. I have to like research a little bit more. This stuff is sickening, guys. It's ridiculous. And a lot of it it's the bottom line is the money, right? So like H&M got huge flack for this because they were damaging the clothing and then tossing it in bags or whatever and throwing it away. And they got, like, an employee probably recorded it. This was in 2010. And this went crazy on Twitter, right? So they were called out and they were like, this will never happen again. We're so sorry about this practice. Unfortunately, at a company like H&M or even like, say, Prada, whatever, any company that makes clothing or does anything along those lines, they don't want to just donate it because now they're becoming their own competitor.
Right.
Right. So now you have like a homeless person wearing freaking Gucci because
they don't want that.
Because
they don't want
they're
that.
Donating it, right? They don't want that. You're gonna like dilute the line, right? So they don't want that. So H&M actually went into donating textiles. So now they even take your like used textiles and then they help people with this. So there was like H&M completely flipped the script. They saw that what they did, they saw that it was wrong and they changed it, right? So like this is now 11 years later. They're one of the best recycling companies that you can go through. So back to the, this happens all the time. Like Bath and Body Works will damage out their candles because their scent has been expired or whatever. And then again, they do it because it's cheaper to call it a loss for tax purposes than it is to donate. Like you can only donate a certain number of items and get that tax write-off. Once you max out on that donation amount, it doesn't help you anymore.
Right.
but
Right.
you can claim a loss at your company and then it matters, right?
It's a big deal, right?
So it's a big deal. So you get that money back because it's a loss. So there's like this call to action, like get your legislators in on it, like make the phone calls, call your congressman and do all these things. I have to figure out all these different companies that are making moves on things like this. But I was really impressed with a company, with the nonprofit that's called DonateDon'tDump.net. And honestly, you guys, the founder, Gabriel Passard, is a sophomore at Stanford University.
No, he's a baby.
She's a baby.
I love
She's
it.
a baby. So she like decided to, like, she did a documentary on it, and so now they're taking action. Her and the co-founder Camille Passard, they're obviously sisters, right? They've increased food rescue donations by 800,000 pounds, and that translates into 650,000 meals for the hungry. They do a lot of work for military families and veterans, which of course, you know, that pulls at my heartstrings, baby. So just as an FYI, over 96 billion pounds of good food is dumped into landfills each year. That is actually 40% of all the food grown going directly into the landfills. 40%. So it's like, you know, go to the store and order 5 tacos.
Right.
And then don't even think about eating 2 of them because those are going in the trash.
Right. Exactly.
Essentially, that's what we're doing. And you know, we do it in the home. We know you do it all the time. So there's just a bunch of teenagers that are doing this. There's 40,000 members in the Donate Don't Dump cause.
Wow.
And they're
I
all
love it.
calling grocery stores. They're all teenagers. They're all making these crazy, massive moves to help the planet, because this is just ridiculous and it needs to end. So hats off to the Passard sisters. You guys are my fucking badasses of the week.
That is straight badass.
It is.
That's do
awesome.
something. You know, do something. Yeah.
Love it.
DonateDon'tDump.net.
Cool.
I guess we need to join and help out. I guess we have to now.
You know?
Good job. Ooh, I love this badass story. I love that, you know, young people are coming up with really creative, fantastic ideas to change our world. I love it.
Yes.
Also, we're letting
I feel
like
so
us, like Dre, you're letting people like us know, like, this is happening. I had no clue.
Yeah, I had no idea.
If enough people know this, then they might actually do something about it.
I hope they do. I really do. In the TikTok, it did say, like, you know, contact your congressman and people who have the power to make a change, because if a company is given like more incentive to do the right thing, then they're going to do the right thing. But if you're constantly taxing them or not giving them enough for the donation, we're just in this evil cycle that's going to keep harming our planet. And that's really what it is. You know, we need to do something that's going to help the next generation and the next generations beyond us, right? Like, it might not matter today, but it's definitely going to matter in 100, 200 years.
Absolutely.
We have to
love
try.
it. I love this story. Good job, Dre, you badass. Sharing a badass story. I love it. All right, y'all. You can check us out on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube. So all the social thingies. You can check us out. All the things. Our website, handcuffsandsagepodcast.com. We're going to have lots of fun photos of upcoming events on there soon. Love getting messages from y'all. We love it. Email us at handcuffsandsage@gmail.com, or message us, or like slip into our DMs, or like whatever like young people say. Do that. Do a lot of that. And then you guys can be badasses. It takes just a few seconds. Open up that iTunes. Leave us a review. I love it when y'all do that. It means so much to us. It really helps our little baby podcast out. You have no idea. And then, you know, support your favorite gals and check out our Patreon page. There's 3 levels. You choose your level and we get to spoil you. It's a win-win for everybody. So check that out. We now have spooky ooky tales that you can listen on Patreon only. These are so fun to do. We love to do them on the podcast. This is a new thing where we have listeners come on and they share their stories with us. And they're so creepy. I love them. I love it. And you too can be a spooky ooky VIP. Hit us up, share your story. We'd love to have you on the podcast and, you know, let everyone know the horrible, terrible things that happen to you. But I love
want to hear it.
Yeah, the spooky ooky tales will be on Patreon. And then when you support us, you get to listen and enjoy. How about that?
Yeah.
How about that? I love it. Okay, you guys, are you ready?
Yep.
And remember, we do what we want. Oh, that was so close.
It was
Amazing.
good. It was good. I liked it.
Oh my goodness. All right. Good night.
Okay,
Good
night.
night. See ya.
Bye. Love you.
Handcuffs and Sage is hosted by Red, Timo, and Trey in a shitty guest room in Los Angeles.
Theme music is Leave Now by We Are Wasted. Cover art done by Megan Winchester.
Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Show us some love on iTunes. Be a badass and do what you want. Until next time.